Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rebel Roundup. Rebel News' daily news and opinion show, but it is Wednesday, and Wednesdays is the Buffalo panel. It's Western Wednesdays here at Rebel News. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and every Wednesday I'm joined by my real-life best friend from Regina, Saskatchewan, celebrating Pride Month in her own subversive little way, the beautiful Lise Merle. Lise, how's it going?
Well, it's great, Sheila Gunn Reid. What a great day again to be a wild Western woman. And today's show, I'm telling you guys right now, it is going to be wild.
Fiery.
Just it's going to be the best show ever. And I can't wait to get into it. But yeah, great to be here, Sheila Gunn Reid.
Yes.
Good to see you, Canada.
Yes. And on Western Wednesdays, we're joined by a panelist or panelists. And today, as always, when he's on the show, spicy. I'll tell everybody how they can get involved in this show and support the work that we do. Maybe you have opinions. If you're watching us on Rumble, that's an excellent free speech platform. If you'd like to support our work and have your say, might I suggest a Rumble rant? That's their paid chat over there. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we are hereby reading it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best, time permitting. But Wednesdays are always tight. We've got meetings right after the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, that's a censorship platform. But there's nearly 2 million of you who watch us over there. We'd love to hit the 2 million mark. If you want to support our work, you can leave a super chat. That's their paid chat. Same rules apply as the Rumble rants. And if you miss the live version of the show, because you're, let's say, gainfully employed, but you love us and you watch the show, you can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. And we ask you for this because we'll never take a penny from the government to do the work that we do to hold them to account. All right, let's get into the show. Let's bring in our panelist. It is independence-minded lawyer Jeffrey Rath. Love him, hate him, doesn't matter. He's got opinions. Jeff, how are you?
I'm great today. How are you guys?
We're great. We're ready.
We have a lot to talk
ready
about.
For you.
We have a lot to talk about today.
We sure do. I want to get into this very first video from the progenitor of the independence question, Mitch, State Free Alberta, and he was asked on Global News Morning if he would accept the results of a no vote to stop the separation fight. Take a listen to Mitch.
You tell Albertans, will you accept the results and then stop the advocacy work for separation?
Well, that depends on a lot of things. Will I say that? Will I stop personally? You know what? That's a possibility, but will the movement stop? I can't control that. This movement this genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back in. Alberta is going to continue to do legal. Well, this is a legal path that we're taking. It's nonviolent. It's confrontational, no question, but it has to be. So what we're trying to do is get a better deal for Alberta and Albertans. And okay. I'm sure that will not ever stop.
Sheila Gunn Reid, are you?
All right. I'm obviously having internet.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
trying.
I'm
obviously having internet connections, so I'm a little pixelated.
Yeah, and your audio is lagging.
I'll jump off and then jump back in.
Okay, Jeff, let's talk about this. I want you to reply to what Mitch Sylvestre just said.
Well, there's no reply. I agree with him 100%. I mean, like we're Albertans, we can do math. Like just because Danielle Smith rigs a phony question and is going to have a phony referendum, where no, I'm serious, where people, probably don't just stop. Don't interrupt me, please. You asked me my question. This is my point of view. Okay. Has a phony question about having a referendum to have a referendum. And whatever the result of that is, doesn't bind us to stop fighting for independence. That's the long and the short of it. We're not stopping. We can still do math. Albertans are going to be so much better off when we no longer send $70 billion a year to Ottawa. So, that's why we're so focused on getting rid of Danielle Smith before the referendum question, so we can have a real referendum on a real question.
but this, I don't think that the people of Alberta are entirely excited about that prospect, Jeff. They
I don't
did
know.
elect her.
The couple 100,000 people that agree with me are very excited about that prospect. You know, I mean, sure, there's the Keith Wilsons of the world. There's the Alberta pride dude who wants to be an MLA, and all these suckholes that are always sucking up to Danielle Smith, right? They don't like our suggestion. But, you know, as far as we're concerned, how many times can Danielle Smith lie to us before we say we're done? Okay. She lied to us about, the last referendum. She said, you get enough signatures, you can have your vote. We got 301,620 signatures. She was served formally with a statutory declaration attesting to those signatures. And notwithstanding the fact she said that we'd have a question on the ballot, she lied to us. She lied to the whole province and said that, I'm stopped by the courts from doing that. Both Justice Beesby and Justice Leonard said explicitly in their decisions that the only reason that they could stop those questions was they were brought forward under the Citizens Initiative Act. They both said that Danielle had complete unfettered jurisdiction and discretion to call those questions under Section 1 of the Referendum Act. That's just not my legal opinion. Keith Wilson agreed with that opinion. Yeah. Bruce Hardy agreed with that opinion. So the long and the short of it is Danielle Smith looked the entire province in the eye and lied through her teeth. Yeah, just like she lied through, let me finish. Okay. Lied through her teeth yesterday when she told everybody it was going to cost $4 billion. Stop, just let me finish. This is and then you can speak after my point. $400 billion. $400 billion for Alberta to leave Canada. That's a lie. So go ahead.
Okay. So I would argue that Danielle Smith, being the first premier of Alberta that's faced with this serious a question, is doing her due diligence in figuring out the recipe for the success of the people of Alberta. I think your attacks on her are going to fall on deaf ears, Jeff, because...
Well, they might be falling on your deaf.
Don't interrupt me, Jeff. Don't interrupt me, Jeff. Don't interrupt me, Jeff.
I was just following
like I was saying, Danielle Smith is figuring out the recipe for the benefit of the people of Alberta. She's the first premier that's had to do this in Alberta, and I think she deserves a little bit more grace than you're giving her.
Absolutely not. She's been lying to us since the day she was elected. She was elected as an independence premier. She's now fully declared as a federalist. So her allies and her, and the people she's in bed with, Mark Carney, Thomas Lukasik, Naheed the nose picker Nenshi. These are her co-religionists now. She is a declared federalist. And if you think that the rest of us in Alberta, you maybe in Saskatchewan, it's okay to have a federalist that you'll defend in the context of Saskatchewan independence. In Alberta, we're fed up. As far as we're concerned, she's a floor crosser. She's crossed the floor for the second time now, and we are done with her.
I could not have a worse moment in my life to have a serious internet lag. I just need to interject here and move the show along. I think, just to Mitch's point, that who is anybody to tell us to stop talking about this, right? If the question doesn't go the way we think it's supposed to go, then why do we have to stop talking about it when Quebec gets to have 2 separatist referendums? That's my problem with all of this, is that we're told to shut up and the issue is settled when the issues still remain, regardless of whether or not the referendum on a referendum passes. We will still keep talking about it. We won't be told to shut up. That's my point. All right, let's go to the... Okay.
Oh, sorry. And this just the final point on that. Everybody needs to remember that Danielle made this referendum to have a referendum, a non-binding question. But she's already on record as a federalist as saying that if the Remain side wins, that's the final say on this, which is ridiculous. So this is her deal. So if the Remain side wins, that's the final word. But if the referendum to have a referendum side wins, we'll see whether Danielle's going to lie to us for the 4th or 5th time. Because I'll bet you guys both $1,000 right now here on this show that there is no way in hell that if we win the referendum to have a referendum, that Danielle Smith will call a referendum on independence prior to an election in 2027. She will not do it.
Regardless of of everything else, I think that is a salient point. Why is the Remain side the final say? Like, why is that the final say on this?
Right?
Let's just bump ahead. Danielle
Sure.
Smith says a costing document on Alberta separation could be released by August. And she said there's probably hundreds of billions of dollars worth of startup costs to set up a fully functional national government from scratch. I don't think we'll be doing it from scratch, but let's just listen.
Last week in his new role, Finance Minister Jason Nixon kind of hinted at potentially a costing document on what Alberta separation could look like. So I'm going to ask you, when can Albertans expect that potential document? Are we thinking like potentially August, 2 months ahead, so that they can process, digest this? And what will be in that document?
I hope it would be by August. I mean, I've been talking with the Finance Minister a little bit about this, and I think Trevor Toome has already done some back-of-the-envelope calculations in response. But what is our share of the national debt? $170 billion, very likely, which would cost about $10 billion a year in interest costs. We now have a 5% NATO commitment. We've never had a national defense before. What would that cost? That's about $25 billion. We'd have to take over OAS and child tax benefit, probably another $10 or $15 billion. We'd have to set up the infrastructure for CPP and EI and various other programs that we don't currently run. There's a cost associated with that. We'd have to have border control. People would have to have border stations at Saskatchewan and British Columbia and have tariffs. We'd have to renegotiate all of our trade agreements around the world and establish trade offices. We'd have to set up a post office. We would have to regulate telecoms, banking. We'd have to regulate railways. Like, there's, as you can see, it's a pretty extensive list that has probably hundreds of billions of dollars worth of startup costs. And people need to understand that about what it would be to set up a fully functional national government from scratch. So I gave you some idea of why it might take a little bit of time, but maybe an idea of the things that we're looking at. But yeah, I think it's responsible for us to be very forthright about the costs associated with what it is that is being proposed here, so people can make an informed decision. And I hope that decision is to remain.
Lise, I'll go to you first.
Well, we're not, like, I guess my argument is we're not reinventing the wheel. We are not creating all of these things from scratch. And Alberta would be able to negotiate their interest in all of the national products and projects that they would have paid for. So it'll all come out in the wash, but dollars and cents, like let's ask any of the former Soviet country or any of the former Soviet states if they're happy with running their own show now, or if they would rather still have Moscow, calling the shots. Like, let's just ask them. Let's ask them. They escaped.
Yeah, well, and further to her point, many of these things that Alberta would be taking on, Quebec already does. Like, why can't, look, I feel as though we are as capable as Quebecers to manage our own affairs in this way. But, like some of these government services that she's listing, they're terrible. We could honestly do them better for cheaper. Like, have you tried to use Canada Post these days? They lost my Fitbit twice. I just got it. Now I have 2 Fitbits and I don't know what to do with the other one. Like, have you tried to go to the passport office these days? Don't try to convince me that we can do these things better for cheaper. And at the end of the day, when she says, well, it might cost $500 billion. Well, madam, have you looked at what equalization has cost us for absolutely nothing in return? Even when she inflates the price and says, it's going to cost $500 billion, I'm thinking, well, it's even then still a bargain. Jeff, go ahead.
Well, we did the work. We've done the homework. We don't have to wait till August. All of the numbers are contained in the value of freedom. They're out of date by a year, but the numbers are even stronger this year with the announcement of the Bridger pipeline expansion, the Enbridge pipeline expansion, and the TMX expansion. Those 3 projects are going to add approximately $30 to $40 billion a year to Alberta government revenue were Alberta to become an independent country, right? Her suggestion that we're going to have to take on $178 billion of national debt. Well, our view of that is we've already put $800 billion in equalization into Canada with interest is probably in the trillions. This is a negotiation. We'll tell Canada we're prepared to waive that, but we're not taking on any of their debt. I mean, that's the starting point for the negotiation. But even $178 billion in 2 years or 3 years from now, if Carney brings in UBI, that debt's going to triple or quadruple. Canada is going to become bankrupt, and Albertans, hardworking Albertans, are going to be the ones paying for it. So 178 billion, even if we took that on, that is a bargain to get Alberta out of Canada. We have over $25 trillion worth of oil and gas resources in this province, and Danielle's worried about 400 billion. It's just like her last budget. It's apparent she can't do math. Like 400 billion versus 25 trillion is a bargain. But of course, it won't cost anything like that. The actual transition costs set out in this document are closer to $6 billion, which is completely in line with London School of Economics studies that were done both with regard to Quebec independence and Scottish independence that estimated the transition costs at between approximately 0.4% to 1.1% of GDP. So those numbers are completely insane. It's just another example of Danielle lying to the people of Alberta.
All right, let's move ahead to the next clip. Poilievre. This is no surprise to hear this stuff from federal conservatives. They never win again without us. Poilievre says Alberta separation would be harmful and argues separatism rises under Liberal governments. That is true. Actually, if you look under Stephen Harper, he extinguished two separatist movements, one in the West and one in Quebec during his time. And he said conservatives will unify the country, and he criticizes a divide and conquer Liberal approach from the Prime Minister.
What would the impact on Alberta be if the province decides to separate?
Well, it would be bad for both Alberta and Canada, and it really makes me reflect on the fact that 10 years ago, under the Conservative government of which I was a part, support for separation was zero. In fact, there have only been 3 referendums to separate from Canada, and they've all happened under Liberal governments. When Conservatives are in power, we unite the country. In fact, even in Quebec, 10 years ago under Stephen Harper, the separatist movement was wiped out. Le Parti Québécois and the Bloc Québécois were on their last leg. But 10 years of divide and conquer, centralist Liberal government that seeks to control everything in Ottawa has reignited those divisions. And Mr. Carney's got to start to take responsibility. He's the Prime Minister. It's his job to unite the country, not to wag his fingers, but to actually bring people together and explain how he's going to make Albertans, Quebecers, and all Canadians fully united in this country.
Okay, well, I'm going to correct him on something. I believe the separatist sentiment in Alberta has never been at zero. And actually, I believe it started ticking up. It did start ticking up post Stephen Harper, that's for sure. But I think for a lot of Westerners, we tried it Stephen Harper's way. And we're still in this same boat some 11 years later. So there has to be another way forward. Jeff, go ahead.
No, I think Stephen Harper was proof that federalism doesn't work for Alberta. We elected, Stephen Harper was a former Reform Party organizer and MP. Then he became, Conservative Party leader. We elected, somebody that was campaigning on the West Wants In banner. He didn't give us more Senate seats. He didn't readjust, the number of members of Parliament, across the country, so that Alberta was fairly represented by its population. He didn't change the balance on the Supreme Court. He didn't do anything to try to amend the Constitution. So, he left all of those structural problems in place, which are really the foundation of Alberta alienation and the drive for Alberta independence. We just do not get a fair deal in Canada. If we were to take the seats in the Maritimes, where like literally in PEI, they have MPs on a ratio of 10 to 1 to those in Alberta. I mean, if we had the number of MPs they have in PEI on a per capita basis, we'd have a majority Conservative government in Ottawa right now. Same thing, if they redistributed the seats from the Maritimes, across the West to Alberta, there'd be a majority Conservative government in Canada right now. But the Liberals and those provinces will never let that happen. So Albertans will always be stuck in the position of being taxed to death without representation and without a real say. And election after election, the elections are going to be called at the Ontario border, and it doesn't matter what happens here. To hell with the West. We're here just to, we're a tax farm, for Ottawa and the East, and it's time to make that stop.
Lise, this is true. Like, I see a lot of these federalist arguments saying, like, oh, these things are all fixable, then why haven't we friggin' fixed them? You know, this separatist sentiment, I looked back in 2020, it was around 30%. If it's rural Alberta, it was closer to 46%. When you go back to 2015, similar numbers. So it's the same problem over and over again. And the only time they actually care about us is when we've got one foot out the door.
Yep. And you have to threaten to leave, right? Like you have to threaten to leave a bad relationship to see any gains in it. But I think the sooner Canadians understand that the strategy of the Liberal Party is to divide and conquer, they'll assure the public, like they'll lie to the public and say, we want everybody to get along. We want nothing more than a fully functioning country that's just working together. But really, what they do is pit us against each other in ways that are really subversive and awful, and then promise to fix the problems that they create, which they never do. It's just wash, rinse, repeat by the Liberals. And the sooner we can figure this out as a Canadian public, the better off we'll be.
Yeah, they're like arsonists showing up to the scene of their crime with a bucket of water.
Yeah,
thinking they're going to save the day. It's quite ridiculous. One last video before we say bye to Jeff and hit an ad break. The video is described as all hell is breaking loose in Canada. Mark Carney has told Canadians that a 50% +1 referendum is not enough to leave Canada. Quebec and Alberta MPs are pouncing on him to call him an authoritarian. It's quite something to see the Bloc united with the Conservatives on this.
50% of the votes +1. The Prime Minister knows this. All his laws are passed with 50% +1. His majority depends on 50% +1. Even his parliamentary secretary for justice said the rule is 50% +1. That is democracy. Except for referenda because of the Clarity Act. Will the Prime Minister repeal this authoritarian overreach? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, you have to respect democracy. You have to respect parliamentary legislation and the decisions of the Supreme Court of Canada. Under the Clarity Act, the House of Commons must consider the following factors to establish this determination of a clear vote: the scope of the majority that are valid, expressed in favor of the successionistic option, and the percentage of eligible electors who took part in the referendum. It is not 50% +1.
They're just changing the rules, just making it up as they go.
Well, that's Danny's boyfriend for you. I mean, it's, Danielle Smith, she trusts Mark Carney. Let's go tell Albertans why she trusts Mark Carney so much. This is Danielle Smith's best friend. That's what we're dealing with.
I think it's a bit rich for him to say we must respect democracy and then completely disregard the will of the majority of the voters here in Alberta with his, murkiness around what the legislation actually says. Go ahead,
while
please.
Simultaneously signing us up to become part of the EU. While just like arbitrarily being like, arbitrarily just stating that, what else did he say? Muslim values are Canadian values. I don't recall that in the lead up to the election either. And so no, this is craziness. This is crazy.
Well, he bribed his way to a majority government. He literally bribed his way to a majority government. And he wants to talk about democracy. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. This guy had such little respect for democracy and the outcome of the last election that he begged, stole, and borrowed away into a majority that Canadians didn't give him. And now he stands up in the House of Commons and has the audacity to lecture Albertans and Quebecers, for that matter, about the value of democracy. It's a bit rich.
Well, it was a $500 million bribe in one case. That Inuit woman across the floor from the NDP. Yes. Her husband's construction company, two-person holding company, given $500 million taxpayer dollars to build houses. And there's no way that this one little Inuit gentleman's two-person holding company had the capacity to build $500 million worth of homes in the north. But hey, that's what it costs across the floor,
Right. How many homes is that build and what's the population there? Like, what's the breakdown of the houses? Like, that's crazy, but they didn't even consider that people would think about those things as they're dishing out their bribe money. It's the middle of the show. We need to hit an ad break before we go. Jeff, thanks for coming on the show. I guaranteed people that it would be spicy. It most definitely was. Jeff, how can people find you out there in the world?
I'm on X at Jeffrey Jeffrey RW Rath, and otherwise, I'm floating around here and there. Oh, hey, this is big news, guys. 18th of June, I'm going to be in the Court of Appeal chambers arguing for a stay of Justice Leonard's decision. So asking the Court of Appeal to set aside her decision, which would force Elections Alberta to actually count our petition signatures and validate our signature count, which could be another really big problem for Danielle Smith to try to sort out. So anyway, breaking news, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. That would take that one lie out of the Federalists, where they're like, these are forged signatures, these are fraudulently obtained. I know that Mitch and his team of 7,000 volunteers did some important work validating each and every one of those. So it would be nice to see those signatures be validated by Elections Alberta.
Hopefully the Alberta Court of Appeal agrees with us that, you know, the voices of 301,620 Albertans needs to be heard, you know, by the government. And there's another interesting aspect. I'll just be really quick on this. In Justice Leonard's decision, she says, well, there's no First Nations consultation. Well, her decision makes it clear that nothing happens from a government perspective until those signatures are validated and the number is passed on to the Attorney General. So it was actually Justice Leonard herself who prevented First Nations from being consulted by blocking Elections Alberta from counting and validating those signatures. So, I mean, that's going to be an interesting position we're putting forward to the Court of Appeal, but we'll see what they say on the 18th of June.
Well, I look forward to the outcome of that case. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you both very much. I'll behave better next time.
We'll see, Jeff.
All right.
All right, let's hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side. Thank you.
For generations, many Canadians have preserved more than just firearms. They've preserved history, tradition, competition, memories. But under Trudeau, and now Carney, heirlooms, estates, collectibles, and competition firearms now have to be surrendered and destroyed. While violent gun criminals get pass after pass, openly ignoring any legislation, lawful gun owners are trapped in an increasingly unfair legal system. But we can help. Canada's National Firearms Association's Save Firearms program offers the legal pathway to preserve what matters, while we work towards a political solution. Don't let yours be next. Save history. Save heritage. Save firearms. Visit nfa.ca today to learn more.
Canada's been told to just quit smoking for decades, same message over and over, and yet millions of Canadians still smoke. So let's ask a follow-up question. For those who don't quit, what about change? In 2026, Canada has options that didn't exist years ago. Smoke-free alternatives for adults who would otherwise continue smoking. That doesn't mean risk-free, it means informed choice. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, quit. But for those who don't quit, change could still be part of the conversation. That's why Canadians should check out unsmoke.ca, an information resource focused on smoke-free alternatives and honest facts, not judgment. Put the lighter down, Canada. Learn what your options are.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's BYRNA.ca/rebel.
Well,
Well, well, you know what?
I cannot wait for the comments. I cannot wait to read the comments. Okay, the comments are going to be crazy. Oh, I just can't wait to see what you guys say. I can't wait.
And you know what? We provide a diversity of viewpoints.
We sure do.
We sure do.
That was a great segment. Our thanks to Jeff Rath for being our guest today, and Sheila Gunn Reid. Let's talk about other things.
Yes, let's talk about other things like Tim Hortons.
Oh God,
so
yes, please.
Because you know how I love to drag the national coffee chain of note. This is quite a strange article from the Financial Post, but that's okay. Again, we'll respond to it. This is from Matthew Lau, whom I've met, whom I like. Okay. He was a speaker, I think, at last year or maybe the year before, the Student Journalism Conference put on by the Independent Press Gallery. And he says that we are wrong to go so hard on Tim Hortons. We should stay out of their hiring choices. He says business satisfies social obligations by providing the best products at the lowest prices. It should stick to that. Okay, that's fine. I agree with that. Except these people are artificially depressing the labor market. If your argument is the free market, what we don't have is the free market.
Because there's such a monopoly on it right now. And not only should it be at the lowest prices, but there should, I think we've all noticed as consumers, the lack of quality control at Tim Hortons over these last number of years is really, sort of obvious. And there have been so many stories that point to Tim Hortons as the emblematic symbol of everything that's wrong in Canada. Everything that's wrong in Canada. And it wouldn't be so offensive to Canadians if it wasn't a formerly beloved institution, okay? We all used to love Tim's. We all used to love Tim's. When they had bakeries in every store, when they had overnight staff doing the baking for the next day's food, when they had local kids working behind the counter, we loved Tim Hortons. It's not that anymore. And this is our objection to it, is how culturally obvious it is that there has been a real degradation of our life in Canada and our quality of life.
Well, and I just have a very difficult time trying to understand the free market argument for temporary foreign labor from somewhere else that artificially depresses wages. That's not the free market. That's actually a government intervention into the free market. If you were not importing a slave underclass, which drives down wages and drives up the cost of everything else, then you would have people who would be able to participate in the free market and sell their labor to Tim Hortons for a higher dollar amount. But thanks to this government intervention of the temporary foreign worker program, which is the opposite of the free market, we don't have that. And actually they take a sideways swipe at us in this article. So he says, in an article, Rebel News pointed out that despite the announcement, Tim still has openings for temporary foreign workers and has called for a boycott. Tim Hortons, and then he quotes us, doesn't like to hire Canadians. Although he says Tim Hortons certainly employs far more Canadian citizens than Rebel News does. We hire as many people as our market can bear, and we also struggle with government intervention in our industry. He quotes us when we say it's outrageous, with so many people unemployed, with youth unemployment at record levels, and with summer job becoming a thing of the past, Tim's strategy seems ethically and morally, does it seem right to you? And Matthew Lau's answer is yes, Tim's strategies seem perfectly fine to me. That's because you have a job, Matthew. He says Tim's has no moral obligation to hire local workers or hire foreign workers or even to hire any workers at all if it could get robots to make the donuts and pour the coffee more cheaply than humans. This sort of makes the free market argument for slavery, just so you know.
I'm so happy that you brought that up, Sheila Gunn Reid, because not only does Tim Hortons exploit the temporary foreign worker program or foreign student worker programs or however that works. They also have hijacked the charity and charitable giving element of Canadian life through their stupid smile cookie initiatives. So what they do is they produce these tasteless liquefied cardboard discs, and they ship them off to all of the local Tim Hortons restaurants. Then they get volunteers from local communities to decorate the cookies, which are listen, I would rather have a robot decorate my cookie, okay?
Right.
This is all I am saying. And then they donate Tim Hortons is able to donate the proceeds from the sales back to the charities that just did the slave labor to decorate the liquefied cardboard cutout cookies. Okay, so this is another way that they've hijacked the system for their own benefit. They aren't doing this because they are what is the word I'm looking for? Because they want to be benefactors to the local community, because they're some sort of philanthropist. They do this because they get such insane tax cuts from the federal government. Again, a way that they screw the Canadian public. So, the market is going to decide, Matthew Lau. The market is going to decide. There's always going to be a market for inedible food and crap coffee that's putrid and too acidic for everybody's tastes, okay? There is.
Right.
It's convenience. You're going to sell that for convenience. But for the rest of us who are identifying Tim Hortons as the symbol of everything that's wrong, well, we're going to go somewhere else from now on. Thanks. Thanks, buddy.
Right. And isn't the free market solution to something that you don't like that a company is doing to not spend your money there?
That's the first thing you can do. That's the first thing you can do. And Canadians will. I guess there's one thing Matthew Lau got right in that piece. The market will decide.
The market will decide.
They always do.
Now, this video from Prime Minister Mark Carney, he says he's not considering expelling U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra, who asked him if he was going to expel them. Like, that's crazy.
That is a crazy thought, but like, we live in crazy times, so of course somebody asked it.
So let's watch this clip.
The US president is once again making his 51st state jab, and the US ambassador to Canada reshared it. Is this an ambassador that Canada can work with, or is it time to ask him to leave?
Look, the short answer is no to the second part of your question. And it's an administration that we have to work with. It's our biggest trading relationship. It's our biggest security relationship, many other relationships. And we work with that administration. We take the administration as it is and are working together on a number of areas.
The U.S. president.
That's a crazy question. In the middle of a tariff dispute and USMCA renegotiations, should you chuck out the ambassador, name him persona non grata, like he's some sort of Chinese spy, because he retweeted a joke at you?
Can you imagine? The reporter there seemed to have like a British accent, you guys. Like, do we know who that reporter was at all? I bet we could find out, but it was a loaded question. And of course, there are people who would think that this would be an appropriate response, like barge into the American embassy and demand that the ambassador leave. Like, of course, there are crazy people that would think that that would be an appropriate response. And we're hoping for Mark Carney to say, yes, I'm ejecting him from the country. I'm sending a letter later today.
Yeah.
My goodness. Oh, I would actually love to see that. Like, I would love to see the Americans' response.
They would level our economy if we did this. Doug Ford would just be absolutely destitute if Mark Carney did that. And he actually made some sense there at the end. Now, I wish he would behave the way that he was speaking there, where he said, they're our largest trading partner. They're our largest security partner. Yes. Yes, we've been saying that. And that's why you have to make peace with them somehow. Could you do that?
Could you? Just one of these days? Try it, maybe? Oh, goodness. Anyway, Pete Hoekstra is safe. Okay, he's checked in safe.
Checked in safe from Mark Carney's ejection of him. We can't get rid of IRGC terrorists. Right. We can't get rid of those guys. We can't deport them. We're going to deport the ambassador?
The American ambassador.
The dumbest question I've heard since 2 days ago. we've got a video of David Eby. I haven't watched the video, but I'm already hunkering down for the melancholy that we're going to get from him, because he's melancholy made man. He says, with Donald Trump once again threatening Canada's independence, the last thing we need is a new leader of the BC Conservatives auditioning to be a MAGA regional manager here in British Columbia. I imagine they workshopped this statement.
From my perspective, the job that she's applying for right now looks a lot more like mega regional manager than Premier of British Columbia. But I'll stay tuned and hear what her plans are. From my perspective, the job that she's applying for.
Right, so he's talking about Carrie Finley,
Yep.
the new leader of the BC Conservatives, who has said, I'm against DEI. I don't think guys should be playing women's sports, even if they wear lipstick. I'm against land acknowledgements. We have to sort this business out.
She was the first candidate to say that she was against SOGI and the social and surgical and medical transition of children.
And she's taken a swipe at the CBC right in their studios. I wish I could find that. But he thinks it's cute to just keep calling people MAGA, and that it might work, that it might drum up anti-American sentiment and really motivate those elbows up boomers. But I think Carrie Finley is going to be the next premier of British Columbia. And I think the NDP are probably going to punt David Eby before the end of his term.
Well, it's actually surprising that they haven't already, how close he got to losing the last election. But if anybody's going to make office jokes, it shouldn't be David Eby, like one of the most awkward men on earth. Like, is it the assistant regional manager, the regional manager to mega? Like, if he's going to make those jokes, he has to be cooler about it, right? Because he's Dwight Schrute. Like, if we were to assign premiers to office characters, he'd be Dwight Schrute. Okay,
No,
assistant to the regional manager.
He's the guy. Remember when
Creed?
No, not Creed. Creed at least was interesting. The boring nerd guy that liked Aaron when Sabre took over the company. Robert California came in. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, what was his name? Tell us in the comments, you guys.
Tell us in the comments. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Dark hair,
you
tall,
he's tall as a bean sprout. Yes.
That's him.
Human tapioca.
Yes. Yes. Uninteresting as all get out. That's him.
Just
if we're
bland.
gonna yes.
Bland.
Okay, next video. Someone from the mainstream media asked Poilievre if he thinks cutting gas taxes will actually cause inflation. This is how financially illiterate people graduating J school are.
You are proposing cutting these gas taxes, which will increase demand and therefore inflation. Why should Canadians trust your economic credentials?
Sorry, I don't understand that you're framing there. You say that lowering a tax on gas will increase inflation?
Increase demand for the gas, which again could increase inflation.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I've never heard anyone saying lowering taxes on gas could possibly increase inflation.
That's so funny. I can't believe she said that with a straight face. I don't know if she prepared her own questions, but whoever prepared the questions for her, you just set her up to look like an absolute idiot.
Right, and then doubles down with her beach waved hair. You know what I mean? Just doubles down. Yeah, that's what I said. I said that it increases demand and then that causes inflation. And then she just waits for him to double down again. My goodness. This is what the mainstream media gives us.
You know what we could do? Increase production. And then everybody's happy.
We could just get everybody working. You know what I mean? Get the government out of everything, which is actually the cause of inflation. You know, government spending out of control.
Quite something. Another video. Lying straight to the camera, Anita Anand says Canada currently the second fastest growing economy in the G7. What? Huh? Let's watch.
Speaker, last year Canadian exports to non-U.S. markets grew by more than 17%. Canada is the fastest growing economy, secondly speaking, in the G7 this year and next. And in the first 4 months of this year alone, we secured more than $10 billion in commercial deals for Canadian businesses. Speaking of infrastructure investments, Mr. Speaker, Kissy-Lissums, Mackenzie Highway, Contra Canada was ranked the world's most attractive destination for foreign direct investment. Mr. Speaker, there's a reason we are building Canada's.
What?
We need less foreign investment, lady, and more domestic hustling, okay? And her voice, my God, we got to put her voice. Oh, just new Chrystia Freeland level of intolerable to listen to.
We're in a recession, ma'am. Right. We're the only one in the G7 in a recession.
But there's a whole bunch of magazines that said, Sheila, there's a whole bunch of places that said no.
Like that, we can't have a growing economy while it is simultaneously retracting.
Right, shrinking. She must not have seen the Bloomberg piece about our official recession. She must not have seen that.
Yeah.
Weird. That must not have got around liberal circles yesterday or the day before.
Olivia has found the clip of Carrie Lynn Finley smacking the CBC right in their own studio, to their faces, by name, or as Chris Sims would say out loud with her face, to their faces. So let's watch that.
Okay.
Every other candidate for the leadership pledged to repeal DRIPA. And what we've heard from First Nations, the Leadership Council, they are warning that weakening DRIPA will be met with resistance, would lead to more legal uncertainty and costly court challenges. How would you deal with long court battles or even protests that would ensue?
Well, I'm a lawyer and a trial lawyer by background. I have litigated these issues. I was very much part of the litigation team in the Musqueam dispute of the late 90s that resulted in a decision in 2000 where we fought at the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court of Canada on that. And I was representing the non-Indigenous leaseholders in that dispute, and we won that case. I'm not afraid of a fight. I don't want to fight. I would rather negotiate and see if we can talk. But, you know, I don't think you can stop moving forward just because of threats. I don't react well to threats. That's, from a leadership point of view, it's not the way to move forward well. However, there are threats. They've been threatening David Eby, for that matter, if he even tweaks it. We are the only jurisdiction that has taken UNDRIP from the United Nations and put it into domestic law. We're the only province that's done it in Canada. This is going to have to be repealed. And everyone in this race signaled that.
You can deal with a long court battle, but can British Columbians? That's going to be costly. That's going to cause even more uncertainty throughout the perhaps years of court challenges.
We have a history of litigation with Indigenous people in Canada. There's lawsuits going on all the time. There's lawsuits going on right now. One of the issues in our court system is, who is the government of the day? Who is the government that is instructing the legal counsel, picking the legal counsel? In the Cowichan decision, the judge very clearly said that neither the federal government nor the provincial government presented any evidence nor presented any argument whatsoever for the supremacy of the land title system. We have what looks like a contrary decision coming out of the New Brunswick Court of Appeal, and that doesn't answer the issue. It will be answered, but with a different government approaching the litigation differently, I think we'll start to see different outcomes.
You use the word fight in your response there when it comes to DRIPA and First Nations leadership. Is that how you see your relationship with First Nations in BC?
Absolutely not. You are baiting me with the way you asked that question. I'm sorry you're doing that. That's unfortunate. Here we are at CBC again, baiting a conservative.
You use the term fight.
I use the term fight. Yes, I did. But fight means standing up. Fight means, I said that along with talking about negotiation. I am a trained negotiator. I've trained at Harvard Law in negotiation. I understand the art of negotiation. I have had many respectful dialogues with Indigenous people throughout my legal and political career. It isn't about that. It is about standing up for all British Columbians. And right now, there's a great deal of uncertainty about property rights in this province and in this country. And I intend, as government, to move forward in a way that benefits all British Columbians, not just Indigenous.
I'm so glad that she called them out right to their faces. Here I am in the CBC offices. You're twisting the words of a conservative.
Yep.
I want to see more of this.
Oh,
I already
me
like her.
too. Me too. And I've been saying, like, for what, 2 years?
Yeah.
I miss politicians that are actually willing to fight. I think so many of our problems in this world are caused by people that just go along to get along and forget that they're actually fighting for people. And so I'm delighted to hear that she's fighting for the people of Alberta, because they certainly deserve somebody to fight for them.
Yeah. This broke just before we went on air, and I think we'll use Brodie Fenlon as the cringe because yes. But this broke right as we were coming on air, and actually right before I was filming the Gunn show with Chris Sims of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and she's like, Sheila, I need 15 minutes because I have to write a press release about this because they're baiting and switching us right now. So, and you have to sort of read through it to understand. So the government this morning says they're backing off on the CRTC decision to add a tax to streaming services.
Okay.
Okay. So don't take that as a win. What the federal government is doing is stopping the pass-through. So, of course, you know that if the federal government added a tax to streaming services, Paramount, Netflix,
all
Prime,
of the American companies.
all of the American companies, okay, that's going to be a trade irritant, which I think is why they backed off. They didn't back off because it would cost Canadians anything, because it would certainly cost Canadians something. The federal government just doesn't care, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know that if you tax a service provider, they don't eat that cost. They pass it on down to Canadians. And we know that the federal government is already aware that streaming services are expensive, because the former finance minister told us, if things are getting expensive and tough out there, just cancel your Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. That's right.
So what they did instead is they cut out the pass-through. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to tax Netflix, Netflix is going to pass that along to you, and then you're just going to pay it, and then Netflix will pay the money to us. What they're saying is, we're just going to cut out the middleman of Netflix, and instead, we're just going to give more money to the CanCon creators that you don't like. They literally announced that. So they said, we're going to stop the CRTC tax and then just reach into your pocket and just streamline the process. So the government of Canada announces immediate support to strengthen Canadian culture and ensure Canadian content remains affordable. So investments of $600 million.
Wow.
So they got us either way. They got us coming and going here.
Yeah, they sure do. So add to this all of the many, many, many subsidies that the Canadian media the corrupt Canadian media landscape gets. And this is just another reach for the government.
Yes. So the quote here from Mark Miller, they give him this big, long, stupid name for his portfolio, but it's Heritage. The Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture and Minister responsible for official languages. It's Heritage. Just stop it.
Right.
Are you guys paid by the word? Then he says, Canadians should be able to see themselves in films and series they watch and hear their lives reflected in the artists they listen to. That's why we're investing to support the audiovisual and audio sectors now, while bringing necessary stability as we develop new directions that will ensure Canadian content remains affordable and that our stories continue to shape our identity and how the world sees us. You know what? If Canadians want this, we want to consume Canadian content, we will.
We could.
We could.
Exactly.
It's there.
We would already be doing it. If it was
Right.
good enough content, we would already be doing it. But what is, you know, I think that it's so subversive that the Canadian government is determining what it means to have a Canadian identity or what Canadian culture looks like and sounds like, because both of those things develop on their own. With like culture develops on its own without government interference of any kind. So this is a feeble attempt at them trying to predetermine the narrative of what we come out looking like in the end. But as with everything with this government, we're going to look like buffoons. Like if they are trying to alter what the international audience looks and or feels about regular Canadians, we shouldn't leave the government in charge of that because they're going to F it up.
Right. Like, what are they going to say Canadian culture is? Like
Buffy St. Marie? Buffy St. Marie.
Buffy Santa Maria.
There's a great example of how they determined culture and how they drove culture. That's a great example. David Suzuki, another great example.
Yeah.
Like this is a bastardization of actual culture. This is a bastardization of identity, of national identity.
And let's think about our national symbols: maple syrup, poutine, back bacon, perhaps an igloo. A beaver. How many of those are Western?
Right, the beaver.
The beaver.
That's the best one. I mean, obviously,
the best one.
The best one.
Okay,
productive little guys.
They sure are. They sure are. Let's go to this cringe. This is from Brody Fenlon. He is basically he's not the guy in charge over at the CBC, but he's like
adjacent,
the news guys. Yeah. He's the head of CBC News. Sorry, I was watching it out of the corner of my eye. So he's the head of CBC News, but not CBC all, right? Because CBC is an octopus with many arms, right? And so this is him in the news division. And we just saw the news division in action, by the way, with their interview with Carrie Lynn Finley, right? And we've seen the news division in action as they handled the Kamloops Indian residential school story, right? Mass graves, you guys. Mass graves, just put in a pit and covered over.
Yeah.
So let's hear what Brody Fenlon is reassuring the Canadian public about CBC News.
You will never, ever have to wonder what is real or what is fake if it comes from CBC News. Hi, I'm Brody Fenlon, General Manager and Editor-in-Chief of CBC News. At CBC, our journalism is fact-checked. It's verified. We don't put anything out into the world unless we know it to be true, or if we haven't verified it, then we'll tell you that. Our journalism is produced by humans who have to meet a really high bar in terms of standards. We're accountable for our journalism, and in the rare cases where we get something wrong, we'll own it. We'll tell you what we got wrong and how we fixed it. And you will never, ever have to wonder what is real or what is fake if it comes from CBC News. That's the invitation. Choose news, not noise.
I think it's really telling that they even have to make these ads to begin with. Like, what are we going to tell everybody that says we're crap and says that we should be defunded? Well, let's assure them that we do nothing but tell the truth and fact check ourselves and find ourselves to be excellent. Like, oh my God, it's actually embarrassing that CBC had to do this.
Yeah, pretty Orwellian. When they're like, you know what? Don't even bother fact checking us. Don't even Google something else.
We got the fact checkers. We got the fact checkers internally fact checking our other fact checkers. So just so you know, there's a bunch of humans here who have agreed that we are doing the right thing. Is what Brody what's his name? Sheila.
Brody Fenlon.
Thank you. Is trying to tell the Canadian public. Did it work, you guys? Do you feel confident in the CBC now? Like, are you gonna leave? Are you gonna leave this show and quickly run over to see the stories they're telling today? Or are we just going to continue roasting them for being fake and duplicitous all the time?
Right. Like we saw this in real time during the debates, the federal leaders debates, where they accused DRIA of spreading misinformation about Indian residential schools and then had to issue a correction on an obscure page after their star journalist, Rosie Barton, got it wrong and Drea got it right. But don't you bother fact checking them because they're getting it right. If it's on CBC News, just trust it. Don't use your mind. Just go with the flow.
Yeah, you just never have to doubt that the CBC
they got it right.
They just got it right. They got so many fact checkers, you guys. You just got producers on producers on producers and fact checking themselves. So rest easy, everyone. The CBC is going to get it right away.
Yeah,
one of these years.
Don't think for yourself. CBC will do the thinking for you. Thank you very much.
By all means, taxpayer funds are the ones that are paying for all those fact checkers and all of that. Yeah. He didn't say anything about that though, did he?
Nope. No. All that money, still getting so many things wrong. It's quite fascinating.
Wow.
We've got a couple of chats here before we wrap the show. I've got to finish a couple of things, then I got to get into my next meeting. Mustang 001 gives us $5 and says, independence, let's go.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen. Thank you, Mustang.
Thank you, brother. Corey David Schreier gives us $18.70. I imagine that's like $15 US. Hi, Sheila and Lise. Have you read the Liberty Amendments by Mark Levin from 2013? The future nation of Buffalo will need to ensure that balanced budgets and term limits are in its constitution.
Amen.
Yes.
Immediately, yes.
When my kids were little, I had Mark Levin's dad's book, My Dog Spot, and they really enjoyed it. It was really charmingly illustrated. So I do. I like the great one, Mark Levin, for sure.
Sweet. Thanks for the recommend.
Yes. Okay, everybody, that's the show for today. Before we sign off, Lise, tell people how they can get your Pride book.
Oh, you can head over to bucktherainbowunicorn.com and order your copy of Buck the Rainbow Unicorn to celebrate Pride this season. We want every kid between the ages of 2 and 102 to get a copy of this book because we need to lead our kids back to the truth, Canada. And we thought we would start here with this little delight.
Yes. For those of you still confused, non-regular viewers of the show, Buck is a pro-child, pro-parent, pro-family, pro-reality, pro-truth, pro-health book that counters the current Pride narrative.
Yes, it sure is. And I wrote it on a typewriter, which you can see behind me. Right here. Not this one, a different one, a blue one, but you get the point. Yeah, because of course I have more than one typewriter. Like,
of course she does.
I do.
All right. Well, everybody, that was the show for today. Thanks for bearing with us. It was a wild ride off the start. Could not have had internet problems at an absolute worst time, but that's how the internet gremlins work.
It was great.
It's okay.
It was great. It still worked out.
Great TV. Great TV.
Yes, that's right. And I'm coming back tomorrow. I'm coming back tomorrow because Tamara Ugolini is off on a little caper, I think. So I'm going to see you from rural Saskatchewan tomorrow. We're going on the road.
Perfect.
We're taking the show on the road. So we'll see you tomorrow, guys.
Great. Okay, that's the show for today. Olivia, thanks for running everything behind the scenes. Thanks to our viewers who joined us on this very exciting show. To those of you who pitched in and those of you who engage with our content, you help us in separate but invaluable ways, and we couldn't do it without you. We'll see you back here tomorrow with Lise. What a surprise to me. I'm very excited. And as we say on the show here, if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all. Each year, independent journalists break the stories that matter most. They expose corruption, challenge powerful institutions, and report the stories legacy media too often ignore. Now it's time to recognize that work. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm the president of the Independent Press Gallery, and I'm inviting you to join us for the IPG Awards Luncheon on Sunday, August 30th, 2026, for an afternoon celebrating excellence in independent journalism from around the world. Held as part of the Democracy Fund's Student Journalism Conference, the IPG Awards shine a spotlight on fearless reporting in video, written, and investigative journalism. This isn't about giant, well-funded, taxpayer-subsidized corporate newsrooms. It's about the freelancers filing stories from their kitchen tables at midnight, the documentary filmmakers chasing truth with no safety net, the independent reporters keeping democracy alive one story at a time. And this year, there's more than just recognition on the line. Each category features cash prizes, including $1,000 for first place and $500 for second place. Submissions are open now, but the deadline to enter is May 25th. So don't wait until the last minute panic and coffee-fueled regret kicks in. If you're an independent journalist, editor, filmmaker, publisher, student journalist, or simply someone who believes in press freedom, this event is for you. The IPG Awards Luncheon takes place Sunday, August 30th at 12 at the Novotel North York in Toronto. Submit your work, apply to attend, or grab your tickets today. Find out more at independentpressgallery.com because independent journalism deserves its own stage.